Hello, everybody. Yes, let's go. We back. Welcome to Spoilers for Days, a show for the girls, the gays, and the days to come together to spoil all your favorite shows from our perspective in collaboration with Live by Live. I am so freaking hyped to have these amazing people on the show today. Today, for this episode of Spoilers for Days, we have an amazing special guest, Lauren Shippen, joining us today. Hello.
Oh,
Hi, thank you for being on the show. Lauren is a writer best known for her work in fiction podcasts. She was the creator and the sole writer of the very popular audio drama, The Bright Sessions, a fiction podcast about people with supernatural abilities in therapy. Oh my God, we are going to have to talk about that. Absolutely. But that is not all. She went on to write and direct the #1 podcast, Bridgewater and Passenger List. She also wrote Marvels, an audio adaptation of the popular comic, and Surviving Hawkins, a Stranger Things podcast, which sounds lit as hell. Also going to have to talk about that. She has written 3 novels for Tortine. Although her company, Atypical Artist, she helps bring others' audio stories come to life. Not only are you making amazing works, but you're providing a way and an avenue for others to do it. Amazing. We love that. We stand that here. So thank you for that. So great to have you on the show.
to be here. I'm so excited to be here with you guys and to talk about What If, because I am also a huge Marvel nerd, so I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah,
you're in good company. Good company.
Let's get to learn about Lauren. Let's shout her out. Let's see
cool me off.
I'm excited. Yes, we're gonna cool off. We're gonna let it simmer. So I'll be general here after the start. Tell us a little bit more, like, about what you do. Like, I know podcasts. I kind of know the podcast world, but like, you're doing a lot more than just that. And what is audio drama? I'm sorry. Like, explain to me.
Totally. It's funny. I started podcasting in late 2015, and since then, like, I remember having to explain what a podcast was to some people in 2015, like my family at Thanksgiving or whatever. Whereas now everybody, I think, generally knows what a podcast is, and a lot of people listen to podcasts regularly, but audio drama is still very much in its infancy and kind of on its way up. And basically what it is that it's kind of a throwback to like the 30s and 40s radio drama. It is drama for your ears. It's a TV show for your ears. There's all sorts of things that people have called it. So my first show that I did, The Bright Sessions, the one with supernatural abilities in therapy, it started as just therapy sessions. So 2 people talking, or kind of a fly on the wall in these therapy sessions of people who can time travel, read minds, feel everybody's feelings, whatever it is. And then it sort of got bigger and went out into like a larger world. Wow. The show that I have coming out right now with Erin Menke, who's a podcaster who does Lore, which is a very popular nonfiction podcast about lore, folklore around the world, is a horror show starring Misha Collins and Nathan Fillion, and is about the Bridgewater Triangle, which is like this really spooky part of Massachusetts where like every weird sighting has happened. Bigfoot, giant snakes, alien abductions, you name it, it's happened there. So it really runs the gamut, but it's TV show for your ears is basically the best way I can describe it.
What are your favorite subjects to write about, in your podcasts or your novels or whatever?
Yeah, I think it's probably pretty clear based off the few shows I described. I love anything that has an element of the supernatural to it, whether that's the occult or superpowers or ghosts, what have you. Basically, everything I've written up until this point has had some element of mystery, suspense to it. Passenger List, which was a production I did with John Dryden, who's like an amazing audio drama writer in England, and had Kelly Marie Tran from Star Wars in it. She's fantastic. That was like a straight down the middle mystery without any supernatural elements. But even in that, like, I wrote a psychic character and had fun with like, is it real? Is it not real? So I love being able to explore. BK mentioned the Twilight Zone, and I think one of my favorite things about the Twilight Zone, I grew up watching it, is being able to explore very human issues or explore themes of existence through this science fiction or fantasy lens. And so I love characters, I love character relationships, and that's what I'm always trying to do in my writing, is explore these character relationships and these character emotions and journeys, and then have the external conflict come from something otherworldly, because that's fun.
So I have to ask, what is your biggest goal here now, like in your career? Is it is it focusing on writing? Is it something more? Like what's the end game?
Yeah, I think my ultimate goal currently is to get back to writing. I've been doing a lot of producing over the past couple of years, and that's been amazing. But especially with COVID and having to record, we normally record in studio and record it like a play or like a TV show, and having to record over Zoom and stuff has been draining. And I kind of want to step back from production a little bit and focus on writing my next big show. But in future, I would really love to spend, 80% of my time writing and living in worlds of my own creation and getting to be creative and focus on that. And then the other 20%, I would love eventually for Atypical, my production studio, to have like a grant program where once a year, I get to read through a bunch of scripts that people submit, pick a show and give them a budget and have that, teach them how to produce a show end to end to like empower upcoming creators and get some more diverse voices in the space. But that's a far down the line once I figured out how to fund that kind of dream.
That's amazing though. I love
awesome.
that.
Dude, you're like a pioneer.
But I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of
Yes.
you. What makes you? What has brought you into nerdom? What got you to becoming a Marvel fan?
So I think like a lot of people, it was movies. Like I was super into the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, which I actually recently rewatched, and like they hold up. Like there's
For the
some
time,
good stuff in
they were great.
Yeah.
We're here for that here.
So I was super into those movies, and sort of as a result, I got super into the Spider-Man video game for PlayStation that was like out in the mid 2000s, where you could like free roam around New York, and I just thought it was the coolest thing.
They were so good.
And like having played all of the new Spider-Man games now, like looking back at those graphics, and it's just like, it's crazy how far they've come. Like the new Spider-Man games are so good.
Were you interested in like specifically doing the Marvel's storyline, or did you have like a key character you've always wanted to write for or anything?
Basically, I was given a prompt to pitch on, and the prompt was vaguely to like adapt Marvels. And I actually hadn't read it at that point. I really got into comics maybe like 5 or 6 years ago because I was into those Spider-Man movies and the Spider-Man game, and then obviously Iron Man came out, and I, was huge MCU, and then Winter Soldier came out, and that was when I went like into full tilt fangirl. I don't know if you can see my Bucky and Peggy and Steve is up there.
Oh, I do. Now that you say
Nice.
it, I see it. Oh my
Nice.
god.
The three of them are my favorites. And I got really into the MCU, and then started reading comics as a result. But I hadn't read Marvels when I got the pitch to propose, or the proposal to pitch, or whatever it's called. And so I came up with a pitch that ended up being like quite far from where we ended up taking the show. But essentially the entire concept of Marvel's podcast was based off of one panel that is actually in the original 1960s Galactus Invasion comic that then was repeated in Marvel's, which is just a single panel of a J. Jonah Jameson headline that says Galactus, a hoax? And so we decided to make the entire, like, rather than trying to adapt Marvels, which is like a huge, like, decade-spanning story about Phil and his sort of his photography career and his relationship to the Marvels, we decided to make it just about, like, what if Phil and his assistant Marcia, who's like a very side character in the comics, but who I sort of made the lead in this because there was the most room to sort of make her what I, put my own spin on her. What if they, along with Ben Urich, were tasked with like exploring this theory that the Galactus invasion was a hoax that the FF created to like get public goodwill.
Wow.
And
Wow.
we like decided to, set it in the 60s. And so I also got to explore, one of my favorite things to explore was like the fact that I got to play with some of my favorite characters from the, MCU universe as I knew it, but then also the FF and the X-Men who, up until this point or have not been in the MCU. And so I hadn't been as familiar with. And I got to do like a whole thing with mutants and the Vietnam War and the draft that was like really fun as a sort of subplot line in Marvels.
Cool.
And then writing Peter Parker was probably a favorite. And actually the thing that I enjoyed the most in terms of like iconic characters writing them was the Silver Surfer. Like he's just I went deep in like the catalog of Silver Surfer comics, and he is such a weird, interesting, cool character.
I just kind of want to pick your brain about like, how do you do this? Like, I know that that's a silly question, but it's like, I feel like I would get paralyzed and just like would get writer's block and all this stuff. Like, how you're doing so much. Like, I'm just like, what would you say to people who are like interested in going into this? Like, how do you keep yourself motivated and focused? Like, you're literally sound like a Renaissance woman. Like, you are juggling all these different things. Like, I don't know, like honestly, like low-key you talking about it, like in ways I'm like, wow, there are shortcuts from, you know, obviously doing like an on-camera project, but then I'm just like, wow, like you're doing a lot of work. So like, how do you keep yourself focused?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I struggle with constantly still. And I think the thing that I would tell, you know, writers who are starting out or younger writers is, and maybe this is not true for everybody, but every writer I've ever known feels this way, which is that like that voice in your head that's telling you that it's not good enough is never going to go away. And so I think just like accepting that it's there and moving on is like the best thing that you can do. And you know, and just trusting in the process and trusting in your collaborators and not trying to force that voice down. And then I think finding the things that like help you get into a focused zone. For me, I make extensive playlist collections for all of my characters and projects. And
love that.
So like when I need to get into the zone, I like put on a you know, playlist and I like do the dishes. Like I do something that doesn't require any like mental focus, and I sort of get into that headspace. So find, you know, your version of that thing, and then usually when I'm experiencing like writer's block, I either need to do like an exercise, a writing exercise that has nothing to do with writing the script or writing the book. So like that can be, you know, writing a scene between two characters that's never going to happen, or writing an AU of something, like writing, you know, fanfic for my own work, basically. Or I need to like literally not write then. And that's also okay. Like, you know, I think accepting that voice, that imposter syndrome like might never go away, and also accepting that like there are some days where like it's just not going to happen, has saved me so much mental anguish.
Brains are funny.
right.
Yeah.
Just brains, like what the hell?
Oh, humans. Yeah, humans.
Yeah, I know. Oh, we're so funny, aren't we?
It'd be great to be able to like click that self-doubt switch off though. So many
turn it
times you are just sabotaging yourself.
Lauren, thank you so much for hanging out with us, joining us today. Yes,
Thank you.
Show. It was so dope to have you through the deep dive and all the memes. This was fantastic. I hope you had a good time here with us.
This was the best. Thank you guys so much for having me on. It was so much fun.
Yes. Can you let anybody know what you're working on? Anything coming up soon? And you want to plug any last stuff that they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Lauren Shippen on all social media, and I'll plug two things really quickly. Bridgewater, the podcast that I have right now coming out with Misha Collins and Nathan Fillion, has its finale next week, so it's a perfect time to catch up and not be like dying week to week with cliffhangers. And my third book comes out on Tuesday. It's called Some Faraway Place, and it's about a girl who can dive into people's dreams and change them. And it's YA. I'm really excited about it. It comes out on Tuesday.
Oh,
sign me up.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Wow. Please, everyone, do yourself a favor and look up Lauren. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We're doing it. I'm going to look it
Oh
up.
yeah, I'm following. I'm gonna be bothering her now.
I know.
What did I sign up for, man?
You're in
That fairy show. What's happening?
You are in the queendom now, honey.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Please be sure to check us out next week here at Live Spoilers for Days, Thursdays, 5 p.m. PT, 8 p.m. ET for us East Coasters. And if you want to watch the episodes with us, we host Discord watch parties in the Queen's Discord every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. ET. So pull through, come hang with us, live reactions, join the Discord. All the links are all up in the chat. But until then, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, chat. Shout out to Life by Life for powering the stream. And thank you, lovely ladies, for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. Goodbye. We'll see you next week.